episode 491. Let's get right to it. You're about to hear from a news junkie, a self-proclaimed news junkie, Jim Gaffigan, Joe Rogan. And I'm playing this clip because this kind of shows. I made a clip yesterday. It's called Joe Rogan Embarrasses Jim Gaffigan, because they have a debate over Trump and Biden. And Jim really shows what it's like when somebody listens to the mainstream media solely. They don't go into any alternative narratives. You know, they don't search things up themselves. They're not hopping on YouTube and checking out some other sources, independent journalists. They're not doing anything like that. They're just watching the news. And I stumbled on this clip because that's exactly what he says he does. He sits and watches the news. So what you're seeing right now in this conversation, in this part of the conversation, is you're seeing what it's like when someone just watches the news. I know some of you are like, oh, my head's going to hurt. I know. And it kind of does. You're going to hear him talk about these views that he has. He brings the conversation back to January 6th for some reason. He starts talking about something and basically making no sense. It's very odd. But I think this should serve as a warning to anybody who's sitting around watching the mainstream news. It will rot your brain out. But again, I always want to say, I love his comedy. I think he's a really funny guy. I've been watching that guy since I was a little kid, like 6 years old, I swear. So I think he's a great comedian. You know, some people should just kind of stick to what they do, I guess, you know? Anyway, before I show you that clip, got to bring you to the store. This is IamCoachColin.com. This is our newest design. This is the Public Enemy #1 shirt, the cricket connoisseur himself. Get yourself one. We also have the Certified Pure Blood line. This is also something that I can't say on YouTube, but if you're someone who lived through that terrible psychological experiment that they tried to pull on all of us, and you are unjabbed and proud, go ahead and get yourself a certified pure blood shirt. We have the original Soul Not For Sale shirt. Beautiful. My personal design. I made this a long time ago. I love it. It's the original shirt. And we also have the Great Resist shirt. Do not join the Great Reset. Join the Great Resist instead. You can have steak. You can drive a gas car. You do not have to stay 15 minutes within your house or your district. It's great. Join in the Great Resist instead. And you can get all of those shirts on IamCoachColin.com. We have shirts, t-shirts for men and women, tank tops for men and women, and hoodies like you see me wearing right now. And if you want 10% off, all you have to do is put in the discount code area, I am Coach Colin, all one word, all capital letters, 1 L in the name Colin, and that gets you 10% off. Big purchase, small purchase, any purchase. And if you've done that already on our site, thank you so much. You are much appreciated. Now let's get into the clip.
Concentrate on one. You're a climate change guy and you concentrate on one specific thing and that's all you focus on all the time. You're overwhelmed. You're overwhelmed by constant new threats, constant new distractions and dangers and things to freak out about, and you're overwhelmed with anxiety and existential angst. It's hard. We're not designed to deal with the information that comes from 8 billion people. We're designed to deal with local stuff.
Yeah.
Like what's going on in my town?
Yeah.
What's
happening? Crops okay?
And what's happening in the country? You know, it's like that's the big local. The big community is the country. And then the rest of the world is like, what's happening in Argentina? Like what's going on in Nicaragua? Like what is But when it's just fucking thrown at you all day long, constantly, the cartels, the border's porous, fentanyl's coming in. Bah!
It's
Title 42 and Jesus
amazing.
Christ. You can't get a break unless you disconnect and unless you're off of social media and unless you're not reading the news and just trying to exist with the minimum amount of information coming at you possible. You're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
You're overwhelmed.
I'm totally a news junkie.
Me too.
And there is, and it was one of the, because I used to just watch ESPN every night, and then my wife was like, I hate ESPN. So I'm like, all right. So then we'll watch news.
You have to watch stuff together.
And now she's like full Dateline, right?
Yeah.
You know, like, which is like the History Channel for women, right? And and so, but like the news, and I also know that like consuming too much news is not healthy, right? Because that's some of my outrage machine, right? And it's understanding different kind of things that don't line up, right?
Yeah.
And But I do feel like you and I both have this same suspicion, but like we're coming from two different sides, which is fascinating.
What side do you think I'm coming from?
I think you are more likely to think that Biden is Satan, and I'm more likely to think that Trump is Satan.
I think Biden is a product of a very corrupt business that has been corrupt for a long time, and he's just not that good at being discreet about it, not that good at covering it. I also think, you know, when he bragged about getting the prosecutor fired in Ukraine, I think he's just a guy that has a lot of like, I'll fucking show them. I'll show them. And it's dumb. And I think that's why a lot of his stuff gets exposed. I don't think he's evil incarnate. I think he's one of those people that is in charge of government and has been in that business, entrenched in that business forever. And I think it's a deeply corrupting business because it's so overwhelmingly corrupted by financial interests and by business and you know, contracts and military industrial complex and the pharmaceutical industrial complex. And there's so much influence.
Yeah.
And there's so many lobbyists. And there's so much going on. There's so many deals being brokered. I think he's a product of that. I think Trump is a businessman who, for sure, has been involved in some shady shit. Yeah. You know, the Trump University thing is a good one. But he's also a guy that was a Democrat most of his life, and he's also a guy that knows how gross that system is.
Yeah.
You know, and he was a part of it until he became a president. And then he's an outsider. And I don't think that...
I mean, he's a master entertainer.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's hilarious, dude.
A master at it. Like that debate where he brought in Paula Jones and after the you know, him on the bus for Access Hollywood. I mean, there's very few people that have walked this earth that have been able to, that would be able to navigate that situation the way he did. That was, and some of it's, you know, having ice in your blood.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And being this larger than life character.
It's just like, wow, just everyone who watched it, we're like, what did we just see? What, he's winning now?
Yeah.
He was just down by 20 points 2 seconds ago.
Right.
And so there is, because I think that Trump and Biden will not be the nominees. I think it's a long way off. I think that, I do think that, you know, what do I know? But I'm just, some of it is just kind of like, you know, it's the sport of politics. But I don't think that it's, I think if Trump goes down, I think Biden's like, I'm out.
And so who takes his place?
Well, I mean, I don't think he quits, but I think he goes, I'm not. I think then someone's like, we don't need you to run. I think that's why he's running, is because he's the only one that could beat Trump.
Oh, man, I wonder.
On the Democratic side.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, it's like, or the Republican side. None of these Republicans is as well-liked as they are, or how well they kind of work the outrage machine. They can't compete with him.
Well, I think Ron DeSantis is finding that out, that he can't compete with them. I think he was so successful and so loved as the governor of Florida that pulled everybody through the COVID crisis, that he was going to take this no-nonsense, conservative approach and then run the country in a good way, and everyone's going to get back to the way America used to be.
Strict dad.
Yeah, right. But it doesn't seem like he can compete against the Trump machine, and people are angry at him now. Republicans are angry at him now for going against Trump.
Yeah.
And so that's not a good spot to be in. You don't want to be on the opposite side of that Trump machine if you're a Republican. Oh, that poor fuck. Did you see that interview that he did with Tucker Carlson? He was talking about the demise of the cities in America and all the problems that we have in America, and he said, that's not my concern. And they're like, you're done. You just fucked up. That's it. No one cares about you now. Now, like, he literally killed his campaign with that one conversation with Tucker Carlson.
Well, it would have been a miracle for him to, I mean, I just think as someone, like in the entertainment industry, you eat a lot of shit. You know, comedy clubs, getting on stage, the owner just being a dick to you. But like Mike Pence, seeing those gallows, his kids were visiting. He was like running. His life was in danger. He knew, like, I can't get in that car. And
What are you talking about?
Mike Pence, like when he was down, when they were taking him away from the Capitol, they were like, he refused to get in the car because there was an expectation that, like, the Secret Service was going to take him away from the Capitol so that they couldn't complete the what he was supervising on January 6th.
Well, there was people that were looking for him.
Yeah, no, well,
they wanted to attack him.
There was tons of those, but like essentially Nancy Pelosi and the head of Congress and the Senate, they were taken away from the Capitol. Mm-hmm. And Mike Pence, there was a car downstairs, and they're like, "We're going to take you away," and he's like, "I'm not getting in that car," because if he got in that car and they took him to, like, I don't know, Pennsylvania, then they couldn't complete the one of the tactics was not certifying the votes.
Right.
That was the tactic. So if he could have, so that's where he had the self-discipline to go, I'm not getting in that car. I need to certify the votes. But the fact that he was almost killed and that people were sicked on him, and then he's like, I don't know if Trump should be indicted, Like, that's where I'm kind of like, I've eaten so much shit and I've kissed so much ass, but I've not come close to what Mike Pence is, that's where ambition was more important than certain self-dignity.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that. I'm not aware of that. The facts behind that at all. But I don't think that anyone's going to vote for him for president.
No,
he's just not a presidential guy. He's not a guy that you think of as a leader. He just seemed very weird.
Yeah, well, it's just they put him on the ticket because he was going to get the evangelicals.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he is a man of faith, but he's also. I mean, they're all politicians. It's like when. You talk about any politician, Barack, Clinton, it's like, people are like, yeah, they're politicians. I'm like, yeah.
That's what they do.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like.
They're politicians, You ask anybody, Barack, Hillary, they're politicians, right? Right. Good job. Oh, that face. Jim's just like, why'd I come here? Why'd I come onto this show? I should have told Joe I could only do an hour. Why am I here? Absolutely amazing. But this is the mindset. This is the mindset that people have when they are fully engaged, when they're news junkies, as he says. They're just watching the mainstream narrative night after night. And it's almost like you're getting this feed. It's almost like a hypnotism that tends to go on, because every day, if you're one of these people that does this, I haven't watched TV news, like sat down and watched a TV in the news and commercials and ads. I haven't done that in like 20 years. But when you do it, it pumps a certain narrative into your brain, into your blood. Do you hear the things he's saying? It makes you, like, I started writing things down because, the thing that I saw is like he has these blinders on. It's like there's no other way that things could be working other than how he's seen it on the TV. Super tribal, which happens with everybody. Even if you're someone that's just taking in independent journalists, if you're reading articles, everybody gets a little tribal because that's where we identify. That's where we feel safe. It makes sense. But it happens even more so when you're watching the mainstream news. And then he sees politics as a sport. That was the one thing that stood out to me amazingly. Like, he's like, oh, Trump is winning now. He's down by 20. He was down by 20 a second ago. He's watching it like it's a football game. Because when you're watching the mainstream news, that's how they show it. They're constantly, they did it through the pandemic. They do that. They do that all the time. They'll show you numbers. They'll show you how things are going. They'll even make the animations almost like a sporting event. They'll try to access your emotion through the anchors, the mouthpieces that they use, the so-called journalists that they have on. Those people will try to invoke emotion in you. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. And then he goes into, I don't know how he got into that rant about Mike Pence. But again, illustrates the mainstream, I want to say the mainstream mindset, right? Because it's like he was talking as if he knows Mike Pence. He was talking as if he was there watching Mike Pence, but he didn't see it. He has no idea if any of that stuff happened. He's putting thoughts in the Mike Pence head. He's putting words into his mouth. It's really interesting to see. And I don't care about Mike Pence at all. I'm not trying to defend Mike Pence, but it's just so odd that anyone who's on the other side, he has this narrative of, this person has taken so much shit, and like he knew he just had this whole thing about certifying the votes, and they were gonna kill him, and the narrative is based off the fact that what was going on was an insurrection, and that people were really in danger, and in fact that wasn't quite the case. Just putting it out there, because those gentlemen that were in the Capitol, they weren't exactly. I'm sure there was some. Because, you have thousands of people. There's going to be some that are ready to really rock. But for the most part, these people, like, they weren't in that much danger. Just saying, they weren't in that much danger. Should they have left? Maybe. You know, if you're not involved in a protest that's going on, you probably don't want to be there. You know, I wouldn't want, if I saw a random protest, I wouldn't want to get in the middle. I don't know what it can turn into. I have no beef, or I have no stake. I have no skin in that game. So yeah, I might want to get out of there. But were they in danger? Like they were being hunted the way that they put it? No, that's not what was going on. But when you watch the mainstream news and you take in that narrative, that's exactly what was going on. That was exactly, there was bloodthirsty mega Republicans that were ready to just rip people apart. Oh man, I love it. I love this episode. Oh man, but here's the thing about Jim Gaffigan. You know, I always say this to anybody, and I do it every day. You speak your mind. You should speak your mind. Whether you have that narrative pumped into you, whether you're on top of all the independent journalism that's going on and all the citizen journalism that's going on, speak your mind. Speak it and have the courage to do that. And at least he's displaying that. He knows that he doesn't know much at times, even though, you know, Trump is the worst thing in the world in his mind. But at least he's willing to talk about it, you know, even if he doesn't know that much, which he does not. At least he's willing to just, you know, put it all out there, and you got to respect that, you know. So very interesting podcast. I don't know why he's so, actually I kind of do know why. I was gonna say I don't know why he's so focused on politics, but if you're sitting around watching mainstream media every single day, you're watching the news every single day, you're having fear pumped into you, anxiety pumped into you, dystopian outlook on the world if your guy does not get elected. You have a lot of things that are being pushed on you, and it becomes your focus. It really does. And you can't see past the little things of, you know, Jan 6, like what happened. You can't see past the narrative that's being presented to you. So if you're thinking of like Jan 6, you can't see past any other narrative than what's been pushed to you. You can't see, like Joe brought up intelligence agencies being involved. He could not see that. He was just like, I don't think that's possible. Like, it's so possible. That's what they do. It's a thing that they do. They're called Red Squads. They've been doing that since the days of the Black Panthers. They've been having Red Squads, which were regular people who infiltrated groups and would push that group to do certain things, or just surveil the group so they can report back so they know exactly what's going on. It's been going on for literally 65 years. It's been going on since the first case of it, maybe even longer. So yeah, it's just interesting. Just interesting to see people like that, because I don't meet people like that in my life. I have people who, if I look at them and say, hey man, you know about lizard people? They're like, yeah, I do. And I say, what do you think about UFOs? They're like, I might have saw one 10 years ago. Like, I hang around people like that. And then I hang around, like, you know, scientists, like, I don't want to say government, maybe like local government people. But I have various friends who have interesting outlooks. But it's rarely the people who are just invested in mainstream media. I have to go to like my in-laws for that outlook, you know, or my mother for that outlook, you know. I can't just get it from a Joe Rogan podcast. It's very rare. So be thankful for it, guys. Be thankful for every outlook that you get to peer into, because it can show you things. It can show you something that you need to lean in towards, or in this case, it can show you something that you need to stay away from. Anyway, like the video, like that video, subscribe if you haven't already, boost us out of the shadow realms. It helps so much. And other than that, I'm out. Episode 491. We're almost at 500. Let's go.